Hello, everybody. JC here. I hope you had a nice weekend. For me, it's a Monday, so I don't know what time it is at your place when you're watching this. But anyway, welcome to the show. I don't know if I can call this a show because I'm not really doing it like regularly enough. It's just whenever I have time, right? So, but okay, I have to call it something, I guess. Yeah. So I'm still just very busy with stuff. There's a lot going on, but like I did in my last video, today I'm gonna talk about another Skep Talk video that I watched, and I'm just gonna offer my 2 cents on it, basically. And this one is an episode that was aired on. So this one is March. No, it's April. So April 21st, 2023. It was with Aaron Ra and Mr. Deity. There was a bunch of callers, and I'm just gonna go one by one, and just let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Okay, so the first caller is this guy called who calls himself Helios from Serbia. Now, like, okay, in high school, I actually had a. Oh no, he was Bosnian. Okay, yeah, Bosnia and Serbia. Don't like each other very much. So probably a bad comparison there. Anyway, yeah, he's from Serbia. He actually called many times now, and I think like okay, it depends what you want to get from the call. Like personally, I don't get that much from his call other than okay, this is kind of the situation in Serbia, and everything is bad and stuff like that. So it feels more like a call about just, okay, complaining about Serbia more than more kind of general conversations. And look, it's fine because anybody can call in as long as they have something interesting to say, but it just feels more like a kind of lecture on Serbia, which is not, I don't know, for me like it's not really fun, but anyway, maybe some people like it. I don't know. The one point that he brought up, and this is a very valid point, I thought, is he asked about okay, how can we convince people? So what he's saying is that okay, I believe he's an atheist. So what he's saying is okay, here we have a bunch of religious people, like in the States, right? We have still about 70% that identify as Christians. So you have all this bunch of people that believe in God or some form of God, because we know there are so many denominations in Christianity. Okay, so if you just randomly pick two Christians, like let's say like I don't know, one from California, one from New York, and you put them in a room together, and you ask them questions about what they believe, it's very likely that their answers will be different, even though they claim to both be Christians under that umbrella term. They can still believe very very different things. Maybe one of them thinks like eating shrimp is fine, but the other one maybe thinks it's kind of paramount to a sin, and obviously they don't agree on that. But if you go down the list, I'm sure there's a lot of things that they don't agree on. So in that case, yeah, they don't belong to the same denomination probably. That's the only conclusion you can draw there. Or if they start saying, okay, this is like the religion I believe in, this is a fallacy. I believe it's like a something Scotsman, not no true Scotsman. I believe that's the name of the fallacy, and so the no true Scotsman fallacy. It goes like this: an apologist might say, "Well, no Christian could ever commit genocide." But okay, if we look at history, we find many people who at least claim to be Christians who committed genocide. If you look at, for example, the Crusaders, before charging into battle, they would always, often, I should say, yell some kind of religious slogan like Deus lo vult or something like that. Like God wants this. I believe that's. I'm not sure, what exactly it means. But yeah, definitely a lot of murder was committed in the name of the Christian God. Now, a lot of murder was also committed in the name of the Islamic God, and so on and so on and so on. So when you try to convince people, first of all, it's really difficult. You have to, the first question you really have to ask yourself is this worth your time? This happens very often on my page where some people, get involved in some kind of long debates with me, uh, but they come from the point of view of, you know, faith, total conviction in their faith. They're not interested in listening to what I have to say. They just come to preach basically on my page and in my comment sections. And if I engage that, like 99.99999% of the time, it's an absolute waste of time, waste of my time, I should say, especially because in their mind, it's just, okay, I want to preach, 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 but in my, from my point of view, it's just a complete waste of time. And all it does is at the end of the day, most likely I will ban them because again, I'm not interested in people who just come to the page to preach. I really don't need these type of people on my page. And I don't care how many I have to ban. If it's 5,000, then it's 5,000 that have to go. If it's 10,000, it's 10,000. Like I don't care. I'm not interested in talking to preachers, to pastors, to like actual pastors. Do you really think that that dude is gonna change his mind? If people like Matt Dillahunty can't change his mind, what chance do I have, right? I mean, there's no chance. And they're not interested in that anyway. They're not interested in changing their minds. They just come to preach, preach, preach. God, 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 Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. How great it is and how wonderful it is. Yay. And I'm just not interested in any of that. I'm sorry. So, look, this is very simple. If you don't agree with my method, if you don't like my method that, I ban some people, although I like, look, the page has been up for more than 10 years. The number of people I banned is really small if you consider 10 years of time. But if you really, even if you don't like this approach, that's fine. That's I'm not claiming this is the ultimate way. I'm not claiming to be the best debater either, or it's not my job. Nobody, like, I don't get any money from this whatsoever. I really just do this in my spare time. And if I don't feel like doing it in my spare time, I just do something else. But look, I am spending a bit of time on this because, like, for me, it's important. But I know very well that I'm not going to be able to convince, like, an actual pastor. He's not interested in that whatsoever. He just wants to run his business. He wants to keep it running, um, basically not have a job, but still make money. Okay, because a pastor is not a real job. Absolutely a fake job. It's one of those. So yeah, but look, if you disagree with my methods, that's fine. You're free to disagree. Freedom of choice. You are also free to start your own page, promote it, do whatever you want. You can make videos. You can post memes. You can engage with people and see how that works for you. Because once the trolls come in, I really wonder how you would deal with them. Okay, and look again, we're like, if I was doing this show, I don't know, like in the 80s or the 90s, there would be a possibility that I would be more lenient because it's a new thing. I mean, okay, the internet didn't exist back then, but if it did, I would say, like, yeah, okay, it's a new thing, it's a novelty, so okay, let's just kind of allow this very open kind of forum, right? But now we're in 2023. We've already seen like countless bad arguments. Do we really need to see more? Like I don't understand this attitude from some people. It's like what's the point? Like if let's say you have 1,000 pastors who come on my page and write bullshit in the comments all the time, do you really think that's good? Do you really think that's a positive thing to do? I don't think so. I mean, okay, it doesn't happen anyway, because, like I said, the number of people I banned is very, very small indeed over a period of 10 years. But I just, like, okay, like if you have a better method, please go ahead, do it. Start your own page, gather like 20,000 followers. Like my page has about 17, 18,000 followers. So go for it. Get your 20,000 people and like be fair, not don't just collect atheists, but collect theists as well. Like be relatively open at least in your promo and see how that works for you. Go for it. Make your own podcasts. Invite, have other guests on the show, have conversations, maybe start a call-in show. Like when atheists and theists could call you. Actually, I wanted to do that. Um, but it just never happened because again, I just don't think, judging from the statistics, most people were not really watching the shows. And again, I'm not really familiar on how to set up a call-in show in particular. I mean, I know like there's Skype, but yeah, I'm not sure how that works, to be honest. But I was interested in that at some point. I still am to a certain extent, but I just don't know how technically it will work. And again, like time constraints, man, just don't have that much time anymore. So I have other priorities in life. I mean, again, 10 years ago it would have been cool. Now my reality is different. And please respect that, because I respect other people's life, like what, real life. I mean, if they have to do some appointment suddenly or whatever, like real life shit comes first. And I respect that. But it seems like some people who come into the comments section of my page, they don't respect my time. They don't they don't value that, okay, I actually also have free time, and if I commit to debating somebody, I'm sacrificing my free time. And they take that for absolutely granted. It's like, okay, I should engage them and I should, spend my time talking to them. But why they think that way? Who do you think you are? Like, why are you entitled to my time? You're not. Nobody's entitled to anybody's time, okay? And that's why I also engage very, very minimally. Sometimes I will, most times, sorry, I could, but man, no time for you. No time to cover everybody. There's like thousands of people on my group. Do you really think I have the time to engage everybody individually? I mean, that would be cool. Yeah, that way I would actually get to know some people more, and that's cool. But time, man, where do you find the time? So anyway, trying to convince people, the Helios point, I don't know. This is a yeah. I mean, I think most of the time you're just gonna completely waste your life engaging people. To be honest, but sometimes it is worth it. I think we have to remember that when it comes to religion, what percentage of religious people are really, really like, hardcore believers? Well, what's the percentage? Like, it's a real question. What do you think is the percentage? Is it like 5%, 10%? I think it's probably like 20% real hardcore believers, Like these people who are willing to stand on the corner every week or and preach basically. I think like most of them are probably in the middle. Like, yeah, they believe for various reasons. Maybe it's because of their parents. Maybe they don't want to upset their parents, or they don't want to make grandma angry. But on the other side of the coin, they're also really doubting their faith, and they're like, okay, what am I doing? Like, is this worth it? And those are the people who you should probably engage. Don't engage the pastors, the rabbis. I mean, it could be an interesting conversation if you're, it depends on the topic. But if you're trying to convince them, though, I think it's just forget it. You're not going to do it. I don't care who you are. I mean, maybe Hitchens could do it, but you're not on the Hitchens level. Let's be honest there. Very few of us are. So, yeah, unless you're the next, Christopher Hitchens reincarnated, I don't think even go for it. But if it's people kind of half doubting their faith, like on the fence, then go for them because they're much more open to what you might have to say. That's all I would say here. So good luck with that, though. But he mentioned a very kind of specific category of people. He mentioned one guy who was anti-abortion, homophobe, a young Earth creationist, an incel who thinks that women are property. He believes all the COVID conspiracies, and of course is a Trump lover. And he remember this particular person is not an American. Okay, this is like a Serbian person, and this is very interesting because I knew this one guy in Switzerland who was a Russian. He is about my age, and he was also a Trump lover. And he like when I checked his Facebook group, Facebook page, Facebook profile, I noticed like he surrounded himself with like Trump people. And so, yeah, it's absolutely like this echo chamber, right? And yeah, it's just insane. Like, it's just crazy. But yeah, I mean, if you take all of these categories, like anti abortion, homophobe, young earth creationist, like, honestly, you're not going to convince that type of person, man. They're, look, they're going to take that idiocy with them to the grave, man. That's just the way it is. It's very, very, very unlikely that that type of person will ever, you know, be a productive member of society. So, yeah. That's it for Helios. Let's move on. And the next one was Zach. So, Zach had a problem interacting in forums, and he basically asked like what's the best way to interact. Okay, so this comes back to what I just said about my page. Like some people, like some hardcore theists come to my page just to preach Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And again, you can engage them, right? They don't, they post a comment, you're free to respond to the comment, but you have to ask yourself before you respond to anything. You have to ask yourself, is this gonna be worth your time? uh, we are mortals, and our time is limited. Like in my case, for example, I have a very kind of weird disease, and especially I would say like well, okay, that was probably a bit more now, 6 7 months ago, I guess. I really thought that it was over. Like I was feeling very bad, and I was feeling kind of like fainting often. And obviously, if you feel like fainting, uh, you don't know if you're gonna wake up from that. Let's say like you fall into a coma, and you just don't know what's gonna happen, right? So I really felt like maybe it was over, and obviously in that kind of scenario, I would engage people even less. I would totally focus more on my stuff, like finishing some games I have to finish, just to kind of complete that in my life. And obviously, I would totally just focus on my own things. Screw the rest. But yeah, you have to ask yourself first: is it worth engaging certain people? If you think it is worth it, then you better have good arguments for your positions. I would say like the majority of theists have very weak arguments. It's probably things that you've heard over and over again, and they've been debunked a million times. And you can just Google them. Like you can take certain arguments and just add the word debunked in Google search, and it will just list you up like those arguments already debunked. And that's a good way to, at least like you would have some kind of foundation. Don't use the exact same responses, but you can use that as a foundation for your own responses. And that's a good way to learn also, to kind of improvise to your own replies, not just for what the internet says. But interacting forums. Look, in the forums especially, because he's not, I guess he's not talking about Facebook. He's talking about some actual forums. Do they still exist? Well, I mean, yeah, I guess some forums still exist. It's pretty rare though, I think, these days. Anyway, yeah, in forums, you're gonna get a lot of trolls, and they're gonna say some wild shit, and that shit is not even like true. I mean, they're just trolling. I mean, they're not like, they just wanna. What do trolls really want? They want people to engage their troll post, and that way they feel, what's the word, like, they feel like satisfaction. That's what they want. They want to rile people up. They want to get under your skin. There are people like on some Facebook pages, uh, for example, okay, I'll give you one example because it's really silly. Okay, on some football pages, and I mean like football, soccer, right, for Americans, but it's football, for the record. Okay, so if you go to any football page, there are always trolls who come on every thread, and it doesn't matter what the team is. They will always post something about Ronaldo or Messi, like Ronaldo is the best player or Messi is the best player. Vote now. Some crap like that, and they do it on every single fucking post. And of course, what do you expect? Of course, many people get pissed off and tell them to fuck off and tell them to, leave the page and stop posting that garbage. But none of that matters. They don't care. They're not going to go away. The next post that is uploaded, they're going to post the same shit again and again and again. So there is no point to engage this type of people. So you have to understand first of all, like who are you talking to in these forums? Is it a troll? Is it like a pastor who's just preaching and he's not interested in listening to the other side whatsoever? You have to identify who it is, and then you can go for it. But like I said, 99.99% of the time, chances are you're just completely wasting your time and you're better off doing something else. That's my conclusion. So, how to interact in forums? Well, maybe don't. Okay, next we had Samantha, and she said, I'm picking up things that they didn't talk about on the show. Okay, that's another thing. So they usually answer something else on the show, and I'm really kind of picking things that they didn't talk much about, and that's kind of the point of this video, of these videos, I should say, because I'm gonna make more. So Samantha is kind of a theist, I guess, although I think she's like half atheist already. Anyway, she said she joined the church, she joined a church in England for the community. Well, okay, so that's the argument, or that's the statement. Look, this is a very common thing. Like many people join the church for the community. My advice here is very simple. Look, I know that, like I said before on in a previous video, at the end of the day, most people are very lonely, actually, and you will die alone. Look, this is a fact. I mean, you can be surrounded by people, sure, but at the end of the day, your death is yours alone. Okay, you will die by yourself, and everybody else around you will still be alive, but you yourself will be dead. So, joining the church for the community, my advice is just if you're looking for a community, then why not join some other community? Just go to meetup.com or something and find some actual group that you might be interested in. It could be a sports group, could be like a golfing or tennis, something like that. It could be a kind of science meetup group. It could be just anything that is not religious. Why? I mean, why would you go to something religious? Really, what's the point? You're just gonna waste your time. I mean, at least go find a community where you can, you know, do something. I mean, even if a sports thing, it's good for the health. You're gonna be moving and breathing hopefully fresh air outside. Um, it's good for your body. Religion will not do any good for you at all. So just find a community that is actually beneficial for your personal growth. Religion is detrimental for your personal growth. So don't go for it. And yeah, she still, yeah, the other thing she said is she still believes because of prophecies. So this is a point that, to be honest with you, I haven't really checked the prophecies in depth, so I don't know. I can't comment too much. But I did listen about it before, and a lot of them are bullshit, okay? And a lot of them are very vague. I mean, Christians for like, I don't know, the past nearly 2,000 years have been saying that, it's the end times, it's the end times. How many generations of Christians have already died, and each of them believing that we are in the end times? Like literally end times. I mean, I'm not saying just like a war or, just some kind of big flood that wiped out a city. They're talking about literally the end of the world. So, like, maybe kind of like a nuclear holocaust or something like that. Or, some kind of big asteroid, like literally wiping out everything on the planet, kind of like what happened with the dinosaurs before, although that didn't wipe out all the life on the planet, obviously, because we're here. But yeah, so this kind of thing just didn't happen for 2,000 years. Look, I think eventually, if we end up having some kind of nuclear war, and that is the end of humankind, then they can say, well, see, I was right. And but this is just like, okay, but that's not you being right. The prophecy is vague. It's kind of like Nostradamus. He predicted a bunch of crap, and people then try to fit the shoe on the elephant's foot, and that's just not how it works. That's not how reality works. You can't, like, you shouldn't do that because it's vague. It's yeah, it's it's a fallacy of ambiguity, I think. So check it out on the internet. Then we had I'm not sure about how to pronounce the name, Shoban in Ireland. The only point I picked up from that call is the death with dignity thing. So yeah, this is a kind of hot debate in some places whether you should be allowed to make a decision to die, basically. I know, like in some countries, they have this voluntary suicide. I think it's called another word for it. Anyway, I think in the Netherlands they had it. In many, probably in other countries as well. Obviously, like my point is, okay, yeah, it should be allowed. And again, a lot of people kind of jump to very fake conclusions about it. They say, like, well, if this is allowed, then millions and millions of people will basically want to do that. And that's just not true. That's not true. That absolutely those numbers are pulled out of the ass. There's no evidence to suggest that people will start, killing themselves en masse like that. But the people who have a terminal illness, who suffer every day, I can see definitely like, yeah, sure. I mean, if they say, I can't take it anymore, I want to die, this is my choice, then they should have the right to do that. It's just as simple as that. And from the religious point of view, so some states in the US apparently like want to like block that or ban that, and I just think that's you like in a Christian mindset, you're allowed to die, but I mean, yeah, you can't commit suicide because that's a sin, I think, and you're definitely not allowed to die with mercy, and that's the other thing. So yeah, if you're sick, you're very sick, you're suffering every day, they will just say, well, yeah, but you have to suffer. Um, what is your suffering compared to the suffering of Jesus Christ, right? I mean, he suffered the most for us, so you should suffer too. It's the whole like Mother Teresa thing again. It always comes back to that as well. She didn't run hospitals, she ran death clinics. People came there, people came to those clinics to basically die, but not just die, but die in pain, uh, die in suffering. And if people wanted some kind of way out, they would just be told, yeah, but you have to suffer because Jesus suffered for you. Jesus suffered the most. And what is your suffering compared to his suffering, right? So you should suffer even more, and then you will be rewarded in heaven. Oh, it's such bullshit. Oh, fucking hell. Anyway, yeah, that's my point on that. And finally, the last quote was Trudy. I don't want to go on for too long here. She basically said she felt bad while praying. She felt nothing while praying. And she thought that something was wrong with her. So, again, this is kind of a religious thing. They want to shame you. They want to they want to make you guilty in one way or another. Somehow, like you're gonna be guilty of something, and that's what they want. They want you to feel guilty, and they want you to feel sinful, that you're full of sin. Actually, no matter how hard you try, you're still gonna commit a few sins now and then. And so, yeah. And of course, they will also put a lot of guilt on you if you tell, let's say, a pastor or a priest that, hey, I pray, I pray, but I just don't feel anything at all. Like, so, and they're gonna tell you that, well, something is wrong with you. You're not praying right, or you're not praying hard enough. That you need to pray more, basically, and then you'll be like enlightened. But of course, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. No, if you pray and you feel nothing, that's actually how it works. Spoiler alert. That's how it works. Prayer does absolutely nothing. Just because you close your eyes and you say some crap, uh, it's not going to do anything. I mean, positive thinking, okay, positive thinking is a thing, okay? Like, there are many people, many athletes, for example, who they had a broken leg or something like that. They end up being, they need months and months of recovery, obviously. And okay, there are kind of three routes you can go. One route is to think positive. One route is basically like don't care, just time will do its job. And third one is to think negative. It's like, well, this is really terrible, and my career is probably over, and etc. 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 Your career could be over. Okay, that's just how it could be. But for most athletes, it's not, and they are able to recover and maybe participate again in sports, basically. So many examples of athletes who kind of condition themselves positively every day, and their recovery is a bit faster usually than other people, but it depends on the injury, obviously. But yeah, positive thinking is a thing. It's also just in real life. If you think that every day, this is the end, and everything is bad. You know, just everything irritates you. Everything is terrible. Chances are you're gonna attract negativity to you as well. But you have to be careful here because there's a lot of like very kind of positive people out there, and they're just like positive vibes, dude. And in my experience, they tend to be very delusional. They're not attached to reality. They live in this kind of very fantasy world where everything is pink clouds and unicorns. And even if you try to bring in facts an argument, for example, okay, if I talk to like an American, like, positive vibes type of person, and if I tell them, okay, well, America is actually not that great because, 50, it depends on the measurements, but like 50 to 70% of workers work paycheck to paycheck, these type of people will probably deny my argument. They're going to say, "Well, no, that's not possible because around me people are very well off, and this person bought a house last year, and this person bought an expensive sports car this year. So obviously, your statistics cannot be true." And this is a very dangerous state of mind because, yeah, this is not like even a religious thing. It's just like you live in this kind of like fantasy world where like your life might be okay, and that tiny circle of people in your environment could be very well off indeed, but that does not represent most people though. Most people could still be suffering indeed and be living paycheck to paycheck, and they can't afford healthcare, etc., etc., etc. Just because your life is good, quote unquote, it doesn't mean that everybody else's life is good as well. Just because you earn, let's say, I don't know, 200K a year, it doesn't mean that everybody else earns 200K a year. But these people have like convinced themselves that that's the case, and it's not like a religious thing. It's just like, yeah, this kind of like this positive vibes universe they live in, like a real bubble. So just be aware of those people too. She said, "Is religion mind abuse?" Well, yes, it is, of course. Look, children, just try to picture yourself when you were like 3, 4, 5, like, okay, like, let's say 3 years to 10 years old. Were you like a very like super rational type of kid? I wasn't. I mean, like, yeah, I was kind of just the average kid on the block. I was average at school. I was just bang average everywhere. And of course, when you talk about some very kind of serious like moral issues, morals, ethics, of course there are some things I understood as a kid, like morally, like, yeah, you shouldn't, kill people, you shouldn't hurt animals, like it's, kind of obvious things like that. But that's kind of it though. That was kind of my limit. But everything else, we're not, like, most people are not exposed to that kind of thing. Like, for example, the topic of rape, or the topic of, you know punishment by death, a capital punishment. I don't know. As a kid, I was not even exposed to those things, so I can't say I have an opinion or not because I don't even know. And I don't think like most kids are exposed to these things at such an early age. I mean, there is a certain, I don't know, like, I don't have kids, so I can't say if I would expose my kids to that or not at such an early age. I don't know. I just don't know. But religion is mind abuse because, yeah, at that age, the vast majority of kids are just not capable of critical thinking or, really rational thinking. I don't know. That's just my opinion, but I just don't see it. So if you try to push religion as a fact, the kids just can't. They're just not equipped to counter those arguments. So I would say, yeah, it's mind abuse, absolutely. And of course, the threat of hell as well. If you don't follow these rules, you're gonna like burn in hell. And kids have a very vivid imagination. I mean, I have a vivid imagination too, but I'm a writer. That's why. And I'm a filmmaker as well. I have to, like, it's kind of part of my job to have vivid imagination. But kids, kids have a vivid imagination too, and just picturing themselves like burning forever, and seeing their loved ones burn. It's very vivid, like in their minds. So it sticks. Kids are also like sponges. They absorb everything, and they don't have the ability to process that information properly, like rationally and critically. So yeah, it's a very dangerous thing to do indeed. And yeah, the final note I had here is a non-American perspective. I'm not sure why I wrote that note in particular, but I think it just yeah, it just depends on the religion. Oh, now I remember. Okay, so there's a lot of people I talk to who are not Americans, and when the religious topic comes up, usually what they say, well, like obviously I say I'm an atheist, and they are some kind of theist. It can be like a Hindu or a Buddhist. I know like a Buddhist, and it could be just anything really. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just a theist in general. The vast majority of them, they basically say that, well, for me, like religion is a personal thing. It's a personal faith. So I don't try to force it on other people. And this is an interesting point, and I'll finish on that point because I've gone on for quite a bit in this video. Uh, just ask yourself this question. So if you're an atheist, right? Okay, let's just pretend to ignore that. That's God. Okay, so if you're an atheist, would you be willing to be in a relationship with somebody who is religious? And of course, there are like many categories of religious. So if it's like a super theist, could you be in a relationship with that person or not? Like for me, no, not at all. But if it's somebody who says, okay, well, my faith is personal, it's just like my thing, and I don't try to push it on others, then it's possible, but I still want to kind of dig into the details. Like, okay, but if we have children, do you want to like, do you want to put them into a religious school, or do you want to put them in a regular school? Uh, there's a lot of questions. I would just ask a lot of questions to make sure that there are no problems in the future. But definitely, if it's like a super, a super duper theist, no way, no way. I mean, I don't care like if she's beautiful or if there's a lot of lust. Sorry, but I just can't. I can't deal with people who don't live in reality world. It's just impossible. And there, of course, there are. I could say the same about certain political views as well. There's just no way I could be with certain people who follow other politicians, certain people, certain policies. There's just no way I could, like, if somebody is like a staunch anti-abortionist, for example, and just for like religious reasons, there's no way I could be with that person. No way. It would be like, yeah. But I don't know. I will leave that. So I will leave you on that question. Like, if you like you're an atheist, or even if you're a theist, it doesn't matter actually. Like, let's say if you're a hardcore theist, could you be like, could you marry, let's say, an atheist? And it's not about like convincing each other, because that's probably impossible. But it's just like, could you coexist together? Like, if you're trying to really push your views on each other, like, for me, it's not. It's just not possible. But if you think otherwise, let me know in the comments how you think, how you imagine such a relationship would pan out, because I'm curious to know. And yeah, so I will be back later, covering some other videos in the future. But for now, that's it. So take care, stay safe, and JC signing off. Peace.